Hi guys, welcome back. Dave Yandel with Harbor Park CrossFit, co-owner and coach here at the gym. I'll be going over day number 3 of 12 of our OnRamp program. Again, we'll just be building off of the previous 2 sessions that you've watched. So for today's movements, there's 3 of them. We're going to be going over box jumps, kettlebell swings, and wall ball shots. And we'll talk about the different variances and what we're looking for in a complete movement. Thanks. Alright, let's start with the box jump. You're going to notice that several movements and everything as we go through the OnRamp program, all movements can be scaled. So whether I teach a box jump or a box step up, which would be the scaled version, we can scale the movement to anybody's range of motion restriction or abilities. There's several different variances with a box jump. I'm going to teach you how we like to teach it here at Harbor Park CrossFit. There's several different variances, whether that's jumping off the box or bounding down, which we don't like to teach here only because it loads up the Achilles and we see more injuries with that. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong, just how we teach it. So we're going to teach how we talk about it in OnRamp. We want to use the hips to explode up and to start getting that explosion from the floor onto the box. That's how we get our height. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about landing as quietly and efficiently on the box as possible. So when we land, we want to make sure that we're landing and absorbing the impact from the knees. So when we land, we want to try to land in the bottom of a squat. And when I talk about landing in the bottom of the squat, we're going to land on the box as if we were in a air squat position, because that's the foundation movement we learned in day 1. It protects the knees, so if you're landing in any other position, you're either going to be putting pressure on your knees or your ankles, which we don't want to do. So everything resorts back to the day 1 with our air squat. When we squat down to the box, we want to think about loading those hips, so we're going to kind of push them back. And then as I go up, I'm going to use my hands and swing, and I'm going to push through until I get to the box. Here we go, loading the hips. Explode up and landing in the bottom of my squat. Notice it didn't make a lot of noise, and then we stand all the way up. We have to have full extension at the top to be counted as a rep. So if I did not step up and then I came off the box, that would be considered a no rep. So we want to use the hips, explode up, land as quietly as possible, absorb the blow, stand up to extension, and then you come off the box. Stand up, and then step off the box. There is a thing called bounding, which I mentioned before. It's jumping up and then jumping back off. You're a little bit more off balance, you're prone to more ankle injuries, possibly an Achilles tear. The other thing we talked about, what I said, landing flat on the box. The bottom of the squat, we don't want to land on the edge. We land on our toes on the edge where my ankle's hanging off the edge of the box. It's loading those Achilles again, and I could potentially rupture it. So we want to be as safe as possible when we land on the box. When I talked about landing quietly, you want to try to absorb that blow. You don't want to be loud with the box. Okay? Those are 2 examples. So you want to try to think about soft feet and absorbing the blow. This was box jumps. There's several different sizes of the box. There's a 20-inch, which I was just jumping to. 24 inches if I were to flip the box over. And then 30 inches for the box to be all the way up. Depends on the workout, but sometimes we ask or we prescribe different heights for the box during the workouts. Again, can be scaled to anybody's individual needs. All right, moving on, we're going to go to the kettlebell swing. There's 2 types of kettlebell swings that we do here. Generally, we do the Russian kettlebell swing or the American kettlebell swing. Both have similarities, but differ slightly. Most of the time when we do kettlebell swings here at Harbor Park CrossFit, we do American, unless we specify Russian. The 2 variances would be American kettlebell swing means the kettlebell is going to go all the way up over the top of the head and lock out the arms. And the Russian is literally going to be right at shoulder height and then back down. I'll show both variations just so we have it. When we have a kettlebell, we want to make sure that we squat down appropriately. We want to protect the spine. So you notice how I squat down to it. And this is almost like a deadlift. We will talk about the deadlift moving on. But we want to squat down. I have a nice flat back. What we want to try to avoid is just reaching down like this. Now I only have a 30-pound kettlebell, and this is relatively light for me. But even over time, if I'm using that type of movement just to squat down and pick it up, I'm just recruiting poor motor abilities, and I want to try to recruit good motor abilities so I get good habits, okay? So always squat down, pick things up like this with a nice flat back, and we'll stand up with the kettlebell. I'm going to demonstrate the American kettlebell swing first, and most of this movement's going to initiate with the hip. Kind of goes back to what we talked about with the box jump. We want to use those hips to drive the bell overhead, and it's not so much my arms. My arms are just kind of hinging. So what's going to happen is I'm going to think about pushing my butt back with a slight squat or knees bent, okay? My arms are in contact with my thighs, and I'm going to push forward with my hips to throw the kettlebell overhead. And when I go overhead, I want to lock out the arms, trying to get the kettlebell bottom up towards the ceiling. Notice how I'm kind of controlling it. Hopefully you can see this. And then when it comes back down, we just go through the swing motion like this. Each one should be locked out. And now I'll demonstrate the Russian kettlebell swing. And that will come when the kettlebell just comes to shoulder height. The movement still comes from the hips to throw the bell forward. What we want to try to avoid is over squatting. Generally what we see when we see over squatting is we're going to come down and we see this. This puts a lot of pressure on the back, and it's not even recruiting my hips. So it actually makes the movement more difficult. All right, finishing off, the final movement today is going to be the wall ball shot. You'll notice on the rig here we have several different targets. They're circular targets across the rig. Some of them are 10 feet tall and some of them are 9 feet tall. The 10 feet tall targets are meant for men's heights. The 9-foot target is meant for women's heights. Basically we use targets because it works your accuracy and your stamina and agility kind of all in one. It's a lot harder to, as you're getting tired, to hit a target that is only the size of a small, I would say, circle, I guess, because that's what they are, than to throw it up onto a wall. So we utilize the targets because it tests your abilities all that much more greater as we go through this. For the wall ball, it comes down to breathing and allowing momentum to do most of the work for you. It'll help increase your stamina and endurance throughout this workout. When the ball is on the floor, we want you to try to, again, keep a nice flat back. So like we did with the kettlebell, we just reach down and grab it. Notice my back is nice and flat. What I want to avoid is this. Picking it up like this, and even though this ball is very light for me at this point, over time, again, it's just poor motor abilities. That's not what we want to instill in your mind. So we want to always get in good habits from the beginning, even if it's light weights. So I'm going to squat down, protect the spine, stand up. Okay, from here, we're going to bring the ball, and we want the ball to literally be right in front of your face. From here, we're going to squat down to a full squat, so that means below parallel, and then all the way up where we let the ball go and touch the target. Now I'm going to do a couple motions here and then I'm going to talk about this. I'm letting momentum do most of the work. As I come up, I'm using my momentum to throw the ball up to the target. When the ball comes down and I catch it, I allow the ball to take me down into the bottom of that squat. I'm trying to focus on my breathing in and out. I try to breathe on the way up, exhale on the way up and inhale on the way back down. That helps me, but it also helps to keep my heart rate low, and it helps me concentrate a little bit better. So what we want to try to avoid when we get tired is pausing. This is generally what I'll see. Or we allow the arms to get tired and the ball kind of pulls me down like this, and then I have to reset. What we'd like you to do, if you're getting tired and we feel that ball pulling us, just let it go. We can always reset and try a better rep later. Nice fluid motions, again keeping the breathing under control. Thanks for joining me. This is day number 3 of OnRamp. We have 9 more days to cover. Hope you're finding this information useful. This is just a brief coverage of every movement. We go into a little bit more depth on every day when you're in class. But again, I just wanted to give everybody a good understanding of what to expect, that the movements aren't so scary. And again, I can scale any of these movements, or us coaches can scale any of these movements to your individual needs and range of motion capabilities. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you on day number 4.